Hello and welcome to Delta College Impact. I'm Roger Waller, your host for today's program. And on today's show, we're going to be talking with one of our re-entry students and actually one of our success stories here at Delta College. I'm sure a lot of you are sitting at home thinking about, should I come back to college or even start college for the first time? And I think you know my answer is yes, let's do it. And we're going to talk with a student who did it and find out a little bit about him and a unique twist to his story. So let's welcome Jesse Dela Cruz to Impact. Jesse, great to have you here.
Thank you.
And I know you decided to come back to Delta College. Well, let's say you're not the traditional student. You came back a little bit later in life. And what caused you to say, hey, I wanted to go to college and specifically Delta?
Well, I came to a point in my life where I had to make a decision. And I thought, well, I could get a lawnmower, a weed eater, a truck, a blower, and I could probably, because I got some skill, you know, I know about a little bit about manipulation, you know. Mm-hmm. So I thought, well, I could do that, you know, I could build a business and then I could start hiring people and pretty soon I could just kick back and just get the money, right?
Right.
But then I asked myself, well, would that be fulfilling? And I thought, no, that won't be fulfilling. So then I had to go to school. So as a result of making that decision, I decided to come here. After 30 years, I hadn't been in school since 1968. That's a long time. Mm-hmm. And I came in and I took an assessment test. I don't have a GED. I don't have a high school diploma. But I took a assessment test and I did pretty well. And the journey began. Mm.
And I think that's a great point. Is to a lot of people, you don't have to have that high school degree. Exactly. You can be sitting at home saying, oh man, what can I do? Or you can get off the chair and come on down to Delta College, take that assessment test. Exactly. And then when you got to Delta, how did you decide what field that you wanted to go into?
Well, I wanted to work with people. However, I wasn't really sure, okay? So what I decided to do, I said, well, what I can do is I can take classes that will, you know, maybe get me a human services certificate, right? To do it in and out sort of thing, right? Because I could do that in 18 months or so from what I understood. But I thought, well, I could do that, but in case I change my mind, why don't I take some classes just in case I might want to go on and maybe transfer down the line. However, I was like, I didn't want to get into that one because, you know, I thought, well, so what I did was I took, you know, classes like the Introduction to Psychology, English 1A. I didn't even know what 1A was, but I took it. Mm-hmm. And I took a guidance class to give me some foundation as to how to do, you know, study skills and how to, you know, things that I didn't know anything about. Mm. And a PE class so that I could get fit.
Right, that's right, exactly. You have to have that. You know, I mean, there's no doubt we got to work a little bit with that.
Exactly.
But so you're coming back to school after, you know, 30 plus years of being away. How'd you find that experience, that challenge of all of a sudden you're dealing with students who maybe weren't, maybe a little younger than you were?
Actually, you know what? I was like in awe. I was really like amazed because, you know, although I had passed through, you know, down Pacific many, many times, right? I really didn't know that Delta College existed, really, because I had tunnel view. You know, I was like on this track here. And so when I got here and I seen all these people and I thought, wow, and I seen the landscape and I seen the architecture and I said, my goodness, man, this really is a nice place. And I was like moved, right? And I was always like this. I was always walking around with a smile and I was always happy because it was a very enjoyable experience for me. You know, although it was, sometimes it got to be, you know, stressful because I didn't know what to do. Right. But what I did was I paid attention, and they have a lot of resources available here if you pay attention. So they had a math lab, they had a writing lab, they had all these labs where you could go and get tutored if you needed help. And I took advantage of every resource that was available, because I didn't want to fail.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, is that we at Delta College, we pride ourselves on having a lot of resources, but you have to keep your eyes open, because we keep wondering, how do you reach the students to get them to use the resources? And I think your point is, hey, they're there, keep your eyes open or ask somebody. And I know if there's one thing you're good at, it's asking people how to do it. Because not only did you use the resources, but later on you actually became a part of that resource system, didn't you?
Sure. I went through the first semester, and the first semester, once I finished the first semester, it was like, it was an accomplishment that I thought, wow, you know, and I did very well. But see, what I didn't understand was that my GPA, my grade point average, did matter, but I didn't know that it mattered. See, I took a class that I felt was insignificant. That's what I thought. So I went through it, and I got a C, right? Well, at the end of the semester, when I found out that there was scholarships and that people would give you money and help you, and that it all rested upon mostly one thing, your GPA. I said, oh, no. And I said, well, let me see. And then I really got excited, right? And I went on summer school, and I said no, and I started getting A's. You know, because I started applying myself. And, you know, and I ask a lot of questions, and I talk a lot sometimes. So after the first semester, it became a little bit easier for me, right? And I started working in the fall, because I started in the spring of 1997, and in the fall of 1997, I became a tutor in the writing lab, right? And so that I could help students that were having the same problems that I had when I came in, because I understood, because I had just gone through it and was going through it at that moment, actually.
Right, that's right. And I think that's really the key. As you become that reentry student, you start to gain confidence. And I think the great thing that you did is that you said, hey, I'm going to help others, and I'm going to use some of the skills that I have to assist others. Now, you then evolved to a point where you said, hey, this is going to be my channel, my path that I'm going to take. And you ended up graduating from Delta College. And what was your major, and what did you do after that?
Well, what happened was that after I finished the second semester, I decided, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and get me a bachelor's, right? If I can do this, I can do that. Now, I really didn't think about a master's yet, because it was a little bit too far down the line. And I knew that if I did that, then I might end up getting myself in trouble and then not accomplishing anything, overwhelming myself with tomorrow and not living today. You know, so I said, you know what, I can do this. So what I did was I graduated from here in 1999, May of 1999, and you know, I graduated with honors. I might have gotten better grades, but I wasn't, you know, I was very satisfied with what the grades that I got. I was an honor student, and I transferred to Stanislaus State. When I got to Stanislaus State, that summer of 1999, I remember parking my car and looking at the campus and thinking, taking a deep breath and thinking, this is the place that's gonna shoot me into the professional world. That was like, and I was like overjoyed, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, I was just moved beyond description, really. And the journey to the BA started, you know. And so after my first semester, I made at Stanislaus, I made a decision that I was going to continue on and get me a master's. After the first semester, though, over there, because then I knew that I could do it.
Did you find, I have to put in my little plug here for Delta College, did you find that Delta prepared you for that next step?
Well, I'm going to say this, that I truly believe this is, and I always come back to Delta College, because Delta College is the place that shot me into the academic world, right? And by doing that, it shot me into the professional world, because it gave me a foundation that I was able to accomplish just about anything so far as a result of what I learned here. In fact, I'm gonna, for the people that are out there looking, the students that are looking, the ones that are listening to this tape, I mean this interview, Delta College is probably the hardest part of the whole thing. So if you can finish Delta College, you can do anything. Because I'm telling you that This school here, this college, provides you with a tremendous amount of foundation. I mean, it gives you a foundation that is you're gonna have to use a jackhammer, huh?
Mm-hmm. So that's right, exactly right. I mean, in your shape, you know, you came back, you said, I'm willing to learn, and you had the opportunity to learn, and you took advantage of that opportunity and built that foundation that said, I'm going on to Stanislaus State, graduated from Stanislaus State. What was your major?
I majored in sociology. My BA was in sociology, and I'm currently doing my graduate studies. And I just submitted an application for a pre-doctoral. So, I mean, I'll know whether or not I'm accepted in June, July. Mm-hmm. So this is my first year. I'm completing my first year in graduate school. And it's pretty nice.
Hey, I got to tell you, it's quite an achievement.
Exactly.
Now, the reason that we're going to talk to Jesse a little bit more is because your story sounds terrific. I mean, you're coming back to school after 30 years, and now you really have this academic zeal, and you're really going through the steps, master's degree and potential doctoral degree. But your background before you got here was a little unique from a standpoint that you have a special interest in a special group of people. And what's that group of people and their challenge of coming back to school?
Well, the target population that I'm most interested in is ex-offenders, parolees, and in that they are what I consider by and large an ignored population. Huh? Mm-hmm. What we do is, society tends to do is, we never think about them except when we're incarcerating them, or we read about them in the media, and we put them away somewhere because we use what they call the Band-Aid approach. Huh? Mm-hmm. But what most people don't understand is that individual there, sooner or later, 94% of the people that go to prison eventually have to be reabsorbed into our communities. Mm-hmm. And most often than not, they're your neighbors. They shop in the same shopping malls you shop. They drive down the same streets you drive. So, you know, they go in with all these problems, right? And the problems are never addressed in the penitentiary, too many. Mm-hmm. So now they come out with whatever problems they went in with, and then I don't know how many more problems. So now society has a real big problem.
And that's going to lead us to some discussions about how Delta College can fit into that system.
Exactly.
And some of the challenges that these individuals face. And when we come back after these brief public service messages, we're going to talk more with Jesse Dela Cruz about the challenges of the reentry student and how to make them successful. So stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Delta College. Delta College. Delta College. Delta College. Delta College, making your dreams a reality.
Welcome back to Delta College Impact. I'm Roger Waller, your host for today's show. And on the first half of the show, we talked with Jesse Dela Cruz about his journey that he began here at Delta College after 30 years of being away from college. He's now progressed through an AA degree here at Delta to a bachelor's degree from Stanislaus State, and he's now working on a master's degree at Stanislaus State. And in addition to talking about his career here at Delta and where he's gone from here, we've also talked about his special interest, and that's in dealing with ex-cons, those who return to society, and how to really help them, because they're also coming to Delta College and there's some of their special challenges. Jesse, on the first half of the show, we talked a little bit about you, and right at the end, we started to talk about your special interest. And I guess one of the things I should ask you is, how'd you get your interest in working with ex-cons?
Experience the challenges that, you know, when I came to Delta College is that we as ex-offenders, ex-cons, parolees, the challenges that we encounter, just trying to reintegrate ourselves into mainstream society, right? Because, we live in a box, and all of a sudden we find out that there's a great big world out there, right? Mm-hmm. And we get here and we're like afraid, we're afraid because it's unknown. Mm-hmm. It's like, I use this example. It's like, for example, I'm in the penitentiary, right? And they're going to transfer me to another penitentiary. Well, I'm afraid, but I don't let nobody know. And I'm on the bus and I'm thinking, man, I hope this guy's not there and I hope this guy's not there because we're going to have problems. Well, when I get there, and as soon as I get there, I see someone that I know. And the first thing I do is I ask him, hey, homeboy, who's here? Mm-hmm. And as soon as he tells me so-and-so and so-and-so and so, then the fear is gone. Mm-hmm. And then I'm okay. However, when I came to Delta College, I couldn't go, hey, homeboy, who's here? Mm-hmm. Because this is really unknown. And there was nobody here.
That's right. And so all of a sudden you're put into this environment and you have to say, how am I going to deal with this?
Exactly.
And I guess that's a big issue for a lot of people, sure. Whether it's coming out of prison or coming out of your own home. You come into this environment and it may look pretty, but it still can be pretty intimidating. And how did you start to deal with that?
Well, one of the things that helped me is that I wasn't really, really afraid to ask questions. See? Mm-hmm. So, however, that's not the case for all of us. And I'm going to use the term us because I'm part of the us. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm part of that population. I got here and I didn't want to ask no questions. For example, the first midterm. Well, I didn't know what a midterm was. Mm. Yeah. See? And I was embarrassed to ask, what is the midterm? Right? Mm-hmm. How do you raise your hand in front of the whole class and say, what's the midterm? Mm-hmm.
Right.
Nobody wants to be embarrassed. So I kept my mouth shut until finally, but all the time I was like, in turmoil inside. Mm-hmm. You see?
That's right.
So what I did was I just sat still and paid real close attention. And I sat in the front. They told me, you have to sit in the front because you're way behind and you got to catch up. And if you're sitting in the back, you're going to miss. So I sat in the front like a soldier, right? I'm sitting there and I'm paying real close attention. So I did all the things that I heard other people, not necessarily that I asked them, but I would like eavesdrop because we're good at that stuff. Mm-hmm. See, a lot of the skills that I acquired in there, I found out that I could also utilize them out here. Mm-hmm. But, at the time I didn't know that I could do that. I thought, well, everybody can see that I'm an ex-con because I walk like one. Mm-hmm. I talk like one. I look like one. I dress like one. And then what happened was a lady said, somehow it came up that I mentioned it to her, and she looked at me with this dumbfounded look, right, and said, Jess, you been in prison? And I thought, well, this lady's clowning me,
Yeah.
But she really didn't know.
Right, that's right. Is that all of a sudden you think you're standing out in the population, and yet our population is a lot of times moving so fast, they don't even know who's who. And so the idea is now all of a sudden you came to the reality that, hey, I'm just now in this system and I have to learn how to deal with it.
Exactly.
Now, some of the other things that you started to talk about is the challenge that you face in class. I mean, you were willing to raise your hand. There are probably a lot who don't, and then they sit in the back and then they just don't come back. Now, how do you work with that student and that ex-felon when they come back to say, hey, participate and get involved? Because that's not easy.
As a professional, I believe that most of us have the skill. We have learned because we've gone to school, we teach, we see people, we interact with people every single day, day in and day out, right? We should be able to ascertain and see that this individual might be just a little bit different than everybody else. So I don't think that you should baby the individual. What I think that should be done is that you should take maybe a little bit of extra time and maybe pull him to the side, or her, whatever the case may be, and say, if you ever have, make yourself available, give them validation, develop a rapport, but then you have to find out what's rapport to them, because what is rapport to you might not be good rapport to them. You also have to figure out, what are the things that this target population, what are they doing? What kind of maybe religious backgrounds does he come from? What does he study? I mean, what's his culture? All this stuff plays into it. And as professionals, I think that it is our responsibility to go above the call of duty, not necessarily outside the classroom, but in the classroom.
And I think that's a great point, because I know a few weeks ago, Jess did a nice presentation for faculty here, because you really challenged the faculty to say, hey, let that above and beyond the call of duty in the classroom sort of meant that we had to become more sensitive and realize that the culture that now this individual is coming into is different. And what were some of those topics that you covered with faculty?
We covered the fact that, see, this population here, right? For example, I heard a faculty member here tell me, well, the faculty has their belief systems. And I said, you're right. He said, no, well, they have their belief systems. And I said, yeah, I know they do. And these individuals have theirs too. So we are the professionals. Am I correct? So we are here to help them. They are coming because they heard that Delta College was the gateway to a better life. Somewhere along the line, they heard that. And they came. And they brought this bag that smelled sort of bad, right? Because that's their belief systems. And they knew that those belief systems are not, with the current of life. However, these are the ones that they have. So that's all they have. So they come to Delta College. And one of the things that we discussed was belief systems and sensitivity. See, sometimes we make insensitive remarks. So here's an individual that doesn't believe that he should be there anyway. But he heard somewhere that maybe he could fit in, huh? So he comes. And then somewhere along the line, an insensitive teacher or professor or instructor, however you want to say it, makes a remark that offends him, and it confirms what he already believes, and he throws in the towel, and he doesn't show up again, and in the process, he does something, and he ends up back in jail, and the revolving door begins again, huh? So, is it our fault? No. But it is my fault when I'm not careful of the things that I say that could affect someone. So we have to be aware of the people that we have in our class.
Yeah, that's right. The diversity really involves not only racial and ethnic diversity, but it really is that background that person's coming from that's a different belief system. And like you say, they're coming from a system where maybe authority wasn't exactly the thing that they endeared themselves to. Now, when you start to talk with ex-felons who are here in college, what are some of the tips that you give to them on how to be successful?
I was talking to an individual earlier, and someone had used his Social Security number to acquire a loan, student loan. And what I explained to him, he was angry, and I explained to him, I go, look, one of the reasons that whoever used your Social Security number, the reason they did it was because they always felt that you couldn't do it, that you would never come to school. However, you proved them wrong. Now, what we have to understand is that because we're here, doesn't mean that life is going to be, that people are going to be good to us. Life is life all the time. The people is what makes life cool, right? So I have to like try to tell them, look, because you're not drinking, or you're not breaking the law, or you're not using drugs, and that the right thing should happen. Well, first of all, you weren't supposed to be using drugs. You weren't supposed to be breaking the law, and you weren't supposed to be drinking anyway. So you're not really doing anything that you're not supposed to be doing. So when you look at it that way, then it's a little easier, huh? And they go, oh, I never thought about that. So the simplest things are the most difficult things, because you got to remember that they lived in a box. So they have to be retaught.
And I think that one of the things, as you think about it, and that's what Delta College is all about, is giving people the opportunity. We're an open entry institution which says, hey, we're going to give you a chance. And if you want to talk or learn more about Jesse and his thoughts, you can contact him as a gang violence prevention person at PMB 33-216 at 4555 North Pershing Avenue here in Stockton, or give him a call at 609-8470. Because I think we know Jesse is not alone, but you learned how to work through the system. You learned how to make good things happen. And I think the real key is that you're willing to share with others to help them be successful as well.
And one thing we have to remember, to the population out there, that it's a saying that I hear. If it's going to be, it's up to me.
And that's a good way to end the show. So thanks for watching, and we hope to see you at future Impact programs. Bye-bye.